So sidechaining on my synths. For most of my sidechaining, I use the FabFilter Pro C2. Plugins like the Volume Shaper or Kickstart are also very popular. I prefer personally to use compressors. It's up to you, whatever you want to use. I just like these compressors a little bit more because of the customization options which the attack and the release times can give me. And also I don't really necessarily have to uniformize all of my side chains, which I know like with Volume Shaper you can like draw these things and make it work. I have a similar plugin. I don't have Volume Shaper, but I have Qvert here. Works very similarly to what Volume Shaper does, and you can draw these things, and it's going to work as a sidechain too. But to each their own. I prefer to use a compressor for sidechaining. So the goal for sidechaining is obviously to get out of the kick's way. I don't have any other sidechaining set up with any other instrument. It's only the kick. As a trigger, I use this very short kick drum sample, which might be useful to show. The reason I keep it very short is because then these attacks and release times can be even more customizable. And so what's interesting in using a compressor, and what's the biggest benefit of using a compressor, because obviously this drains a little bit more CPU than a plugin like a Volume Shaper would do or Kickstart would do, is that these attack and release times are customizable. And it's not going to be super effective to demo this on this specific synth, but maybe if I look through these layer sounds, I'm not sure what I have here. Oh, okay. No, this is going to be perfect to demonstrate what I have here, but I need this sidechain. All right, so it's the same sidechain setup as in the same way as the other synth. It's getting the same trigger. There's no filtering going on, and the attack and the release times are fairly similar to what was on the other synth. Now, if I set this attack super slow and the release super slow, it almost directly will bounce back from the trigger. So for this specific track, this obviously wasn't my goal to sound like this. So in general, the higher you go with the attack, the more transparent it's going to get, because what this attack really means when it's set to sidechain mode is that this 30 milliseconds is, so from the point it hits the trigger to go from 0 to your actually set ratio here, which is 2.9 for me inside this project, but can be 100 to 9. It doesn't matter what is your ratio. All that matters is that it will take 30 milliseconds to reach from absolutely nothing to the 100% of this ratio, which is set here. So so obviously the higher you go, the less effective it will sound. I mean the effectiveness is going to be the same, but after it will take more time to get to the point of the sidechaining. What the release does is how much time it will take once your trigger is gone to actually get back from your 0, from your actual ratio point. So these are working kind of the opposite to each other, but they are also both very important markers. And the release is mostly going to be dependent on your kick drum, because the closer you can get it to actually match the release time to how your kick tail goes down, the better it's going to sound in the context of this whole track. I want to be as transparent and as smooth with everything as possible, so it's a little bit going to be higher attack times. Like I'm not sure where it was, but I believe it was around here in this area. Yeah, and the release time could be a little bit longer, but like 150 will work pretty fine. So, and attack and release times inside the synths, I have most of them bounced down here, so it's going to be harder to show. Do I have all of them? Yeah, all of them are bounced. And in these layers, I can show you maybe this one, but not sure if it's that interesting. I have a pretty long release time because I don't want that clickiness. Sometimes these serum processings are not the greatest. So this is something I don't want to hear. Here using this synth, I also this is going to heavily depend on what are the other instruments, because I always use this synth as a layer to other instruments. This is very rarely at the forefront of everything else. And if I have some other clicky instruments which have a very heavy transients, I will keep this also in this range around like 1 millisecond or maybe 2. But when I have when I have all the other instruments playing like super smooth, elongated attack times and longer releases, I will also crank this one up to not have this much clickiness. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't want that. It depends on the character of the actual track. And I also have this other synth here, which also has a relatively aggressive sidechain on it, and the attack time is also increased to this much, because again, I just wanted to take out the clickiness of it. Another reason why I took out all these other attacks, because I have this layer here. So this is just a percussion sound loaded into a sampler, which I then EQ'd out these low end of it pretty heavily to only get the click. And I wanted to have this transient instead of all the other ones. So I just have one clear synth transient instead of having 6 others, or which are sometimes going to end up as a mess.